All right, so glad the old music is back, and I'm so glad to be back with you guys here at On Texas Football. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Favors, of course, joined by the young prodigy, fellow lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, who is at the NFL Combine, boots on the ground, and my very good friend and the newest member of the On Texas Football family, the man who needs no introduction, our own Jeff Howe, is joining us for tonight's broadcast. Now, you guys know how it works. We'll address a number of different topics. Of course, we'll start at the NFL Combine because my man CJ's got some notes from the Combine. He'll be there throughout the entirety of the Combine, so we'll be talking about that and the 14 Longhorns being represented. But also, CDC had kind of his state of athletics kind of address, if you will.
Yeah, the town hall. It's going on right now. So I caught about probably 35 minutes of it.
Oh, good. All right. So we'll ask Jeff if he heard anything of note from the town hall address of CDC. We'll get to that coming up. Also, Real Analytics, they do the actual times. They actually time players based on their miles per hour, getting actual kind of GPS timing for guys in game, and they've been doing it for the last few years, and they have predicted 40-yard dash times for players at the NFL Combine, and they've got some Longhorns. They've done safeties, I believe, cornerbacks, and wide receivers, and that's usually considered the fastest groups, but also running backs this year, because Jaden Blue is expected to light up that 40-yard dash time, and we'll talk about that too, actually. We'll talk about a little bit about it, because Jaden Blue is getting a lot of buzz. Like, I heard several different draft analysts, either from ESPN, different places, saying that they expect Jaden Blue to start lighting things up at the Combine. So I want to talk about that too coming up. But guys, you know how it works. You can drive the show any direction you want to. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. We expect you to. We hope you to. Want you to participate in the show. But let's get to it right now. CJ, let's start with you because you're there, boots on the ground there in Indy for the NFL Combine. Got a chance to speak to a couple of Longhorns. What impressed you about what you heard from the Longhorns who were doing their media availabilities today?
Yeah, Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, Barron Sorrell, all three were out here during the defensive line, defensive end media availability this afternoon. One note really surprised me. It came from Alfred Collins, and I guess it's not new because it's been happening all season long, but Bloody Tuesdays is one of my big takeaways. And, what's Bloody Tuesdays, you might ask? Look, I wrote a little article on Texas Football about it. But it's 2 periods of good on good every single Tuesday, from the offensive line to the defensive line, their linebackers, and they get after it. They go 10 minutes of run fits, planning for the week ahead for whoever they play. And it doesn't matter if it's Oklahoma, doesn't matter if it's UTSA, it doesn't matter if it's Ohio State. 10 minutes called Bloody Tuesday on Tuesdays, 10 minutes of good on good. And Alfred Collins was very appreciative of it. He said, you know what, look, me, Vernon, Barron, we're not here. We're not in Indianapolis right now if it's not for Bloody Tuesdays. And he gave a lot of credit to Kenny Baker as well, Pete Kukowski, kind of putting them into this situation to develop, to improve, to work on the run fits, because that was a big selling point for the Texas defense once again. Even after the departure of Byron Murphy to Vondre Sweat, the Texas run defense was stout once again. A lot of credit goes to those Bloody Tuesday workouts. And I heard from a source right after I was talking to, I was like, hey, Alfred said this, is this true? Like, is this actually how it went down? He goes, look, it got pretty heated. These guys are pretty competitive and on both sides of the trench. So Bloody Tuesday, a pretty cool deal for all 3 of these guys. And I can't wait to hear from all the offensive linemen on Saturday about how much it actually meant to them as well.
I like that, Blake. I always loved good on good. I was always a big fan of good on good if you could get it. I remember doing, we do one-on-ones, which is obviously, not good on good. Just kind of everybody rotates one-on-ones. And I got to the point where I could demand to go against Roy Williams or BJ Johnson or Sloan Thomas. Like, I wouldn't go against anybody else because I wanted that good. So I loved when we did good on good, man. We did it a few times in team every now and then, but never during the season on a weekly basis. I don't think we ever really did that during the season. So it's got to be competitive. It's got to be, I think, a huge benefit for them, because there's no doubt the D-line, they're starting to develop a pipeline, sending guys to the league and sending guys in twos, by the way, to the league, Jeff. Yeah. And we talked about this, Jeff, a little bit, and it'll come out in football theory, but you think that Kenny Baker's got a lot of different methods that vary from, previously and what they were being taught. Not that it's, not that it's much better than what Bo Davis was doing, but it's just different than what Bo Davis was teaching.
Yeah, I think Kenny Baker is coaching disruption rather than counting on it to happen naturally. I think if you look at Bo Davis, it's all about run first. And if you go to practice, you can kind of see how both guys work. Like Bo Davis, when defensive linemen are going through individual, it's all about hit, separate, find the football. The punch is really what he's focused on. So it's all about stopping the run and really kind of earning the right to rush the passer. Kenny Baker's more worried about, hey, don't even let that offensive lineman get his hands on you. Like, we want to be violent at the point of attack. We want to be aggressive. We want to be disruptive. So I think Kenny Baker's just naturally coaching guys just to be more disruptive. So, and I think you saw that a little bit if you look at numbers like, havoc rates and things like that. If you look at just the sack numbers, the pressures, notice how much more pressure got home this year compared to in 2023. So I just think Kenny Baker putting more emphasis on the pass rush and disrupt. Rod, you use the Dan Quinn-ism on football theory, and I think this describes Kenny Baker pretty appropriately. With Bo Davis, it's stop the run, earn the right to rush the passer.
Yeah.
With Kenny Baker, it's more of that Dan Quinn theory where, hey, stop the run on your way to the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We want to constantly put pressure on the quarterback, but hey, if you just stop the run on your way. Like, it's still important, don't get me wrong, but this defense, Kenny Baker's emphasis is on disruption. And I think that, again, I didn't connect these dots until I started thinking about this for football theory this week. But if you look at Texas losing to T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy on top of Bo Davis moving on, Kenny Baker was the right guy at the right time for Texas because that Johnny Nansen influence coming over from Arizona, they had one of the best front seven havoc rates in the country in 2023. And really, when I talk about havoc rate, that's your percentage of plays that are tackles for loss, which includes sacks, forced fumbles, and passes defense, which PBUs and interceptions. So I just think it was, we talked about Texas playing more middle field closed because they wanted to have an extra body to defend the run. Like when you had Sweat and Murphy, it didn't matter what you ran behind them because, Rod, you brought it up a number of times. Texas was one of the best defenses in the country in 2023 defending the run with a light box because which one of those guys are you going to double team? You're going to double team Sweat and leave Murphy one-on-one? Or are you going to double team Murphy, leave Sweat one-on-one? No, you're just kind of screwed, right? I remember if you go back to the Houston game when, I think some of the U of H people, because Houston had a couple of fourth and ones where they didn't run a quarterback sneak. And Dana Holgerson said, Texas has the two best tackles in the country. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to run my quarterback right into him. So teams were hesitant to run the ball against Texas. So I think this last year, they knew they had to be a little bit different. So again, at the risk of repeating myself, I just think Kenny Baker, right guy, right place, right time for where Texas was going, where that shift was coming from on defense.
To your point, Jeff, about not running at Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat, remember in the remember in the Alamo Bowl where it was like a 4th and 1, a 4th and short, and they kept calling. Washington kept calling timeouts.
Yeah,
and they were waiting on Texas to see if they were going to rotate their D tackles. Y'all remember that? And Texas rotated their D tackles. They took out Sweat and Murphy, and then they decided to go for it. And I don't know if somebody ever asked them about it, but I guarantee you, if they'd have had Sweat and Murphy in there, they'd have just punted. To your point, I remember that 4th down. And I'm like, wow, I think that was just Murphy and Sweat. They were rotated out. They decided, now we're going for it. We can do it without those guys in there. Strangely enough, it was Vernon Broughton, I believe, and Alfred Collins that probably were in there at the time. Speaking of, those are the guys at the combine right now. Let's talk about, you asked them a lot of good questions there, CJ. So I don't want to go check out CJ's Twitter account too. Is that at CJ Vogel _OTF? Yeah, get it right?
That's the one. Yep.
Go check it out. Great stuff, though. You did a great job covering Texas there. But tell me about you asked him a question about who could be up and coming. I always love those questions. Who's up and who you been watching? Who as a veteran in that room, that's their room. They're the leaders. They're watching the young pups. I remember when people ask me like, "Hey man, who's gonna be coming up?" I was like, "Oh man, We got so many. We got Basher. We got Huff Daddy. We got Cedric Griffin. I remember telling myself, I think our whole secondary when I leave is gonna go to the league. I was damn near right. Damn near all of them did. So who did Alfred Collins and kind of bring up when Alfred, maybe Vernon Broughton as well, when you start talking about some of the young up and coming guys?
Yeah, both guys were very quick to mention Alex January, and I don't think that's a surprise for anybody who's been following on Texas football or his recruitment coming out of Duncanville, right? This is a guy that's very strong. He's got the NFL pedigree. He's one of the few in that room, so it might not have been a tough choice for Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, but look, they mentioned, they said that he's very strong, and one of them mentioned, I believe, is Vernon Broughton. He said, look, when a guy's got it mentally very early. And he said that, a guy like Alex January, he said he gets it, and I put it in the article, put it in italics because getting it is different, right? It's one of those, it's a rare trait to get as a freshman. And right now, Alex January, quote unquote, gets it. And I think that's really encouraging. Melvin Hills was mentioned as well. We asked Baron Sorrell, and look, he goes, yeah, NFL draft scouts, I'll tell you right now, not talking enough about Colton Vasek and Ethan Burke. And I think coming into 2024, we all kind of expected Burke to maybe have a larger role in this Texas defense. We know that this year is going to be his money year. So Ethan Burke, Baron Sorrell was mentioned by him. Obviously, Colin Simmons was mentioned by all three. And then leaders, that was an interesting question as well. The three leaders I continue to hear on the defensive side of the ball, Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, and, Michael Taft, who I think is going to make a heck of a coach one day. But those were the names thrown around a little bit. I also asked Vernon Broughton, I said, you only got to see Justice Terry for about 2 weeks or so, but what'd you think of him? And his eyes kind of lit up, and he said, big and strong. He said, that is a kid that's as big as I've seen coming out of high school and as strong as I've seen. So encouraging note there. But yeah, a lot of praise on the youngsters. And again, Rod, talking about that year after year turnover on the interior. Well, it's looking like Texas has a few good ones down the pipeline, as we all expect.
No doubt about it. And are we not, because, one of the guys that was mentioned as well, or two of the guys, Ethan Burke and Colton Vasek, I saw the tweet where you put out, I think it was Alfred Collins, speaking about both of those guys, if I'm not mistaken. Are we not, because we got Trey Moore and Colin Simmons, everybody knows those guys have made a lot of splash plays, a lot of those havoc plays you talk about there, Jeff. Are we underrating, maybe underappreciating the impact of both of those guys, Vasek and Burke, next season too, since we're kind of so enamored with Trey Moore and Colin Simmons and what they're capable of, and both of those guys are capable of getting double-digit sacks. Hell, they both could end up getting double-digit sacks next year. The pass rush, though, if it's going to be an elite pass rush, those other two guys have also got to become I don't know if they're premier pass rushers, but they need to become very capable, consistent pass rushers. Can't just be about two guys. They're going to rotate. And how does the rotation look at edge anyway?
A lot of that's going to hinge on how healthy Colton Vasek is and his ability to stay healthy. I mean, that's the only issue he's had, guys. When he's on the field, he's productive. He flashes. He makes plays, but he's got to be on the field. So that's a big part of it. I've kind of gone back and forth on Ethan Burke, Rod, to be honest. Like, I don't, I loved his upside as a prospect because I'm like, okay, he's a two-sport guy. Like, we knew he was a really good lacrosse prospect. I'm like, okay, when he starts training his body and building a football body year-round, and that athleticism comes through, like, and he gets up in the 260, 265, 270 range, like, what's he going to look like? And I think he's a good enough pass rusher to be a three-down player. I don't know that he's an elite pass rusher right now. To me, I think it's possible Ethan Burke can make the kind of jump from 2024 to 2025 that we saw Charles Omenihu make from 2017 to 2018. He might, because Charles Omenihu wasn't the kind of player that he was in 17 that he became in 18. And again, playing in an odd front, I think kind of stunted his development a little bit because as we see now in the NFL, okay, he's situationally he can be an outside rush in, but ideally he's a an even front defensive end, right? That's what he is. I think that's what Ethan Burke is. I think Ethan Burke's got just as much kind of natural pass rush, natural athleticism to rush the passer as Charles Omenihu does. Is he kind of the technician that Charles was? That I don't know, but when I look at Ethan Burke and his trajectory, I see a lot of Charles Omenihu in there.
I like that. I feel like Colton Bostic's a better natural pass rusher.
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with that. I think he's just a kind of a natural disruptor. You always use that term, Jeff, to kind of get in the backfield and make a lot of plays. But right, he's got to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, man, Texas edge room, it's going to be formidable, to say the least. I mean, that's a nasty foursome if you have that in terms of Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, and then an Ethan Burke and a Colton Bostic as well. All right, we'll get to the some more combine conversation. Also, Jeff got a chance to listen to a little bit of CDC's Town Hall meeting, his Town Hall address, I should say. So we'll get to some of that too. But first, let's thank one of our sponsors. Thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery before we move on here. Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes, folks, from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan now available actually at your local Specs. I actually saw a display at your local Central Market here in Austin as well. And of course, Flat Creek not only produces some of the best wines that you'll ever taste, like that Super Texan, but I love their rosé is fantastic, very refreshing. The Pinot is really, really good as well for my friends over at Flat Creek State Winery. So they have a lot of wines, but the Super Texan is the most award-winning of their selections. But not only do they produce some of the best premium wines on the market, it's also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. We appreciate them for being a sponsor of our Wednesday night live stream and for being a part of the Owen, Texas football family. That's flatcreekestate.com. All right, let's get to the town hall. I know it may be still going on. Not sure if it is or not. It's still going on. Jeff, did you hear anything? You said you got about maybe a half hour of CDC addressing the people. Anything of note that we should discuss here on the program that CDC brought up on the town hall address?
Yeah, there's one thing I don't want to stay on this point too much, but when you look at the number of scholarships Texas is adding, when they're done, and these are the caps. At one point, CDC said it's going to be the caps by the SEC on these sports, and then he said it's the NCAA caps. But like the cap going forward for baseball, you're going from 11.7 to 25. Like for Schloss to have that many extra scholarships, CJ, I don't know if you've gotten into the nitty gritty, but man, they have to get really freaking creative to make 11.7 scholarships work for, especially now that the roster size is 40. Football staying at 85, men's basketball going from 13 to 15. But like, here's one that, and again, a lot of this is Title IX and, student body representation. Women's rowing. Dave O'Neill's won, a couple national championships. I think 3 of the last 4 national championships. Women's rowing going from 20 scholarships. The cap is now 68.
Damn.
Now, are they going to use all 68 of those? I don't know, but CDC said basically if all the caps are met, women's scholarships are going from 125 to 267. Goodness. Men's scholarships are going to go. Oh, thank you, Matthew, for putting that up. Men's scholarships going from 141.2 to 199. So you can see in there how that works. That's over $9 million in new scholarships that they've got to account for. And he said basically once the House settlement is finalized, and Matthew, I don't know if you've got the slide that shows the budget impact, where he's talking about publicity rights, benefits pool. That's the House settlement money that's going to get distributed to Texas student athletes. That's $20.5 million plus the $9.2 million in new scholarships. They've made some budget adjustments, but basically they've got almost $11 million that they've got to raise to cover the budget. So it's interesting. Now, one way they're doing that, football season tickets are going up. It's it's $80 per season ticket, so about $13 a game is basically what it comes out to. So your football season tickets. By the way, the renewal's going out tonight. And Matthew, I don't know, can we play? I love the hype video. Can we play the hype video by any chance?
I don't know. We're trying to see if we can, because it's got a lot of games, like footage and stuff. Okay. So we're not there. I know. I wanted to play it too.
I'll tell you this: Arch voiced over the hype video, the season ticket renewal video. So it's
so awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So there's that. There's some parking issues that they've got to work out for baseball right now because they don't have enough parking for baseball. I was telling CJ before we got on, and he's shaking his head already. Matthew's gonna have to get the throwing hat GIF ready. In 3 weeks, they're tearing down the bridge on MLK. So
That's how I feel.
Football traffic is going to be, Rod, what's the cluster word you use? That term?
It's going to be a fuster club.
Yeah, it's going to be that and then some. So just be prepared for horrible traffic conditions during football season. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, Tracy, thank you. Said renewal emails are already in people's inboxes. Yeah, those are supposed to go out tonight. Other than that, there's some renderings of the new football indoor facility, which are nice. They're renovating the 7th floor. They're basically where the press box is at DKR. That's going to be suites now. That's how they paid for the indoor facility. So they'll have founders suites like they have in the south end zone. And by the way, CJ, we're getting moved to the south end zone now, so that'll be where we're at next. They are building a nice media center apparently. So
keep me in the shade.
That's one of the benefits, right, of the Longhorn Network not being a standalone cable network anymore. That set and everything is gone. So
that's true.
More room for us. But yeah, so just some stuff like that. But the scholarship the scholarship increases, and like I said, that $9 million that CDC's got to get it from somewhere. That's interesting stuff.
I have to imagine none of this would be taking place right now if Arch Manning wasn't the quarterback and Texas was coming off of these 2 years of back-to-back top 4 finishes, to get the hype where it needed to be. Obviously, I think the last 3-4 years have done a good job to get to that point, but there's a reason why they're unveiling a hype video tonight with Arch Manning as the focal point. And there's a big reason behind the scenes why Arch Manning, again, has been used to promote the university, to promote the football program, and to raise, I don't know, Rod, if you got a word for this, but a boatload of money other than just boatload, right? It's a ton there. So I like it. Obviously, take advantage of the opportunity because who knows what the situation will be in a year or two when Arch is done. So I'm all for it. Take advantage of it while you can. Strike while the iron's hot, and that's exactly what they're doing. And that's, again, it's one of the big reasons why I think Chris Del Conte is so good at what he does is he understands the timing and a lot of these fundraising, coordinated events. It makes sense. Texas is a big beneficiary of the timing of CDC and his team making sure that they're kind of manufacturing its own hype based off of what's going on campus.
It's a lot easier for CDC and I think Todd Lacey mentioned it because it was in the town hall meeting. Those 9 new suites on that old press box level at DKR, $10 million a piece. They're already spoken for. They're already sold. So that's getting done right now.
Wow.
It's a lot easier to raise money for football when football is winning. It's no coincidence that when they did the big overhaul of the Moncrief complex back in 2019, 2020, it's no coincidence that they broke ground on that a couple of months after Texas beat Georgia in a Sugar Bowl, right? Because the money started pouring in at that point. So it's a lot easier to raise it when things are good and when people can see the upward trajectory. Yeah, Texas fans, you want to have your name on stuff. You want to be attached to greatness and be associated with the stadium expanding and Texas just getting bigger and better. So times are good, man. Rod, if you look back when you played at DKR, Rod, it's by the time all these changes are done, it's going to hardly be recognizable.
Yeah, it don't look nothing like it. Yeah, I remember Mac recruiting us saying they were just going to fill in like the horseshoe, like they were going to fill it in. That was like the big selling point. They didn't do that, I think, till after we ended up leaving too and filling in everything. But no, you're right. I mean, I think CJ hit the nail on the head, man. This is when you're supposed to be promoting and selling the program because optimism is, I don't say it's at an all-time high because you haven't won it all, but it's as high as it's been in, I don't know, a decade or a decade plus on the 40 acres because you got 2 of the greatest football brands in football, period, whether it be college or pro. You got Texas football and Manning. And now this is the time to hype it up and let everybody know. So the fact they had him voicing over the hype video, I haven't even heard it. I just looked at it and I'm getting hyped. I ain't even heard it. I just saw him and I saw him in like he as a little kid with his Longhorn shirt. And I was like,
young
my heart started beating. I was like, oh man, see, now I'm getting all hype. And they know how to sell it. The CDC's a rainmaker, man. He knows how to get people to shell out the cash, man. He's good at that.
So other than CDC getting yelled at about baseball parking, it's not just kind of some of the stuff that we expected to come out of the town hall meeting.
He didn't talk about revenue sharing, right? In terms of how they divide up the
very briefly. Just kind of he had a graphic on it and basically just talking about the house settlement. Didn't get into details though.
And it's because George has already revealed how they're gonna break down their revenue sharing. They say 75% is going to go to football. That's like $13.5 million. And they say 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and then it'll move 5% to the other sports.
Yeah. And I think people, and
they're adding 100 scholarships. Kind of like
it's no disrespect to the other sports, but you got to put money into, you got to spend money to make money. You got to put money into sports that make money. Not everybody's women's basketball program, or, we talk about, I know the guys on Coffee and Football talked about it earlier this week, kind of an outlier is like OU softball. Did you realize OU softball last year generated more money in ticket revenue than OU men's and women's basketball combined?
That's crazy.
That doesn't happen everywhere in the country, right?
No.
Just like Texas has a profitable baseball program when you break it down. Not everybody in the country does, but your football program should be paying the bills for everybody. It should be at that point where it does. It doesn't for everybody because we hear about budget shortfalls all over the place in college athletics. But yeah, it doesn't shock me that football is the most expensive sport. You got 85 full scholarships and everything you need to compete right now in this day and age of college football. This is outside of NIL. This is just talking about in-house what you could do. It costs money.
Costs money, and that's another reason we don't talk about it enough. But that's why some programs have been turned off by the spring game too. It does cost money to put in the spring game, and you don't make a ton of money on spring games. It's just a spring game. I mean, it's a loss leaders. I think is a term that economists will throw out there about it. Yeah. But it's worth it because it's promoting the program. It's fan appreciation, that kind of stuff. But that's another reason why, like I said, it don't make money for you. Right now, people are looking at budgets closer than they ever have before because of the house settlement, because of all that stuff. So good point there, Jeff. All right, let's answer a couple of questions. Then we'll move on to some other topics of the day. How about this one from Tyler? He says, prize picks combine lines drop for a few horns. Alfred Collins, 497. He says, Bun, 434. Golden, 441. Hypothetically speaking, what would you do? I'm thinking under, over. I think his over there would be golden, I guess.
Yeah.
And he says, hook 'em. Can we pull this up, Matthew? I don't know if you have it, but I sent those to you via text. The Real Analytics. They do the in-game tracking of players in real live tracking speed, and they give you miles per hour MPHs on every player. And they have actually predicted, and these are the same folks that had Xavier Worthy. They had Xavier Worthy at 22.7 miles per hour in 2023, fastest player in college football. They had Jaden Blue clocked at, I believe, 22.3 miles per hour in 2023, and they had Isaiah Bond earlier this season clocked at 22.1 miles per hour. They have predicted Isaiah Bond to run around between a 4.33 and a 4.35. That's their prediction. We say, and like I said, I haven't looked at, Tyler brought up here prize picks with Bond. They got him at a 4.34. That's around the range that Real Analytics has for him as well. Thank you, Matthew. They got Aaron Smith, that receiver from Georgia, who is also a freak. They got him running at a low 4.3, 4.32. What do we think for Isaiah Bond? I know you do a lot of this, CJ, and you've been doing it for few years now. Your 40-time predictions. Is this in line with your prognostications?
Yeah, I do this pretty often. I don't think I ever get any better at it. Last year, I was way off. I think I said 4.33 or something like that for Xavier Worthy. Point is, I think you'll see both Isaiah Bond and Jaden Blue right in that 4.29 to 4.33 range. I think that's kind of exactly where Real Analytics has Isaiah Bond, right? You see 4.33, 4.35. I think that's a fair time for him. It's interesting. I had this conversation with somebody earlier today in the combine. we've talked about it not being a great quarterback class. It's not a great wide receiver class either. And as a
No.
result, I don't think you're going to see many dip into the 4.2s at all, right? That was a big thing last year. It was like, okay, Xavier Worthy 4.21, but there were 4 or 5 other guys who all crept into that 4.2s. Like it was a fast draft last year. This year, not so much. So I'm thinking if you can get an Isaiah Bond time right in that 4.3 to 4.33 range, you've done a very fine job in my eyes of doing what you need to do to boost your stock ahead of the draft coming off of the second half of the season. Jaden Blue, very much the same. And I know we're going to talk about him in a minute. I saw him walk in at one of the hotels earlier today that I was sitting at while working. He looks like he's ready to roll, Rod. I'll say that. But again, I think a time around 4.3 to 4.34, 4.35 would be a great time for Jaden Blue. And again, this was the trap I fell into last year, and I don't want to do it this year, so I'm kind of treading cautiously. But look, dude, running 4.2 is not a common thing. And that's what I was sitting there thinking whenever I was making those predictions a year ago. I was like, look, like we know these guys are fast. We know that they have, high aspirations to run, 4.2s, but that is not common. We might see that 3 times out of everybody in the combine on a given year. It just so happens Xavier Worthy is world class, right? That's why I'm sitting there saying, okay, low 4.3s, mid 4.3s would be a great time. Did I expect Adonai Mitchell last year to run a 4.35? Absolutely not. So again, that's a great time. Touching 4.2 at all would be a huge achievement for either one of these guys. I'm not necessarily banking on it this year, but if either of them do it, that's a big money payday for both, in my opinion.
This speaks to the wide receiver class, though, like you were just mentioning, CJ. Look at the top 2 names right there. Arian Smith had trouble with drops all year, and Isaiah Bond was hurt half the year. So if those are your 2 fastest guys at the combine, the tape's probably not going to match up with the speed. At least the 2024 tape won't. So after McMillan and Burden, after Ted McMillan at Arizona and Luther Burden at Missouri, Rod, I have no idea what everybody's wide receiver. It's kind of like quarterback. After the top 2, I have no idea what anybody's board is going to look like. Now, I'm excluding Travis Hunter from that discussion because the rare guy that he is going to be, he's an athlete. Like doesn't matter where he plays. I would still take if I was a GM in this draft and I had the number 1 pick, I'm taking Travis Hunter and I'm not thinking twice. I would take him over anybody in this draft. But yeah, I mean, same thing I've said already this week about Quinn Ewers. Man, he could get himself very much into that QB3 discussion. If Matthew Golden runs 4.41 or better, he could easily be the 3rd best wide receiver in this draft.
That was one of the interesting things as well. Look, Rod, we talk about mock drafts all the time. I've seen Matthew Golden as high as number 12 to the Cowboys. And I'm sitting there thinking, I wouldn't have ever expected that after this year. And I don't want to discredit Matthew Golden because, again, he was the wide receiver 1 at Texas. But that's a surprise to me. So, to see him go that early, I think, again, a good showing for Matthew Golden is, in my eyes, jumping very well, broad and vertical. Testing well in the 40, and testing well in the 40 for him is a 4.4 to 4.45. Right in that range is a sweet spot. But I think the explosivity and the quickness and the change of direction drills is going to be where he makes a lot of his money. Again, I think it might be a little bit of a lazy comp for him, but I see a lot of Tyler Lockett. And look, if you can get a 10-year wide receiver like Tyler Lockett out of Matthew Golden, I think you do that in the first round.
From my research, CJ, excuse me, Jeff, just let me throw this in there. I'll let you finish. Because you asked about how many guys hit the 4.2 at the combine. I think there have been 10 that based on this research that I've that have actually hit 4.2 anything at the combine. Xavier Worthy, 4.21, John. These are wide receivers. Wide receivers. All right. And I think most of the time that's the case, but this is a wide receivers hit the 4.2. So you got Xavier Worthy. You got John Ross, Dante Stallworth, Dree Archer, Henry Ruggs, Marquise Goodwin, J.J. Nelson, Tyquan Thornton did it, Jerome Mathis, Jacoby Ford did it, and I believe that's where it stops. The guys who hit the wide receivers who hit 4.2 at the combine. So I think that's 10. And it's the strange thing about it. I looked at the top 30 40 times for wide receivers at the combine. Do you know how many 1,000-yard receivers you have? Anybody want to guess? One.
X.
Yes, DJ. One. No,
X?
it's Santana Moss. Because X didn't get to a G, did he? He didn't get to a G. He was close, actually. And he probably will. He'll probably be added to this list, actually, next few years. But if you take the top 30 fastest times, 40 times, for wide receivers to combine, you have 1,000-yard receiver. Anybody have a guess who it is? Santana Moss.
Mm.
If you take the
Wouldn't
top,
guess that.
Underrated career.
Yeah.
I can tell you that what's crazy about that. If you look at those 4.2s, 3 of those guys are Sark guys.
Yeah, a lot of Sark guys and Texas guys. Yeah.
And the third one, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Henry Ruggs won't have a 1,000-yard season in his career.
He'll
be looking to have 1,000-yard days, Jeff.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? This is the crazy thing about it. This is how rare it is for a speed demon like that, for that speed to actually translate to on-field production. You have more DUI manslaughters than 1,000-yard receivers among the top 30 fastest wide receivers.
Stallworth has one, doesn't he? Yeah.
Dante Stallworth, yeah. So you got more DUI manslaughters among the top 30 fastest wide receivers to come on than you have 1,000-yard.
Might have to scrap the term speed demon there, Rod.
Just throwing it out there, man. See, I was like, Jeff brought it up though. I didn't think about that until Jeff said so, and I was like, actually, yeah.
There's low-hanging fruit. I went there, but like this is my problem with wide receivers in the combine. Like you take Arian Smith. Like let's say Arian Smith runs the fastest time of a wide receiver. Let's say it's like 4.3 flat. Maybe he gets into 4.29. Everybody's gonna have all the mock drafts. Rod, I know you're a self-professed mock draft slut. Everybody's mock draft. You're gonna have Arian Smith in the first round. He's gonna start getting first round projections.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch the tape. I can count more big plays Arian Smith dropped than he made for Georgia this last year.
Yep,
I agree with that.
So like, I would rather take a guy like Matthew Golden that runs. It's crazy that we're talking about like, oh man, 4.41. That's all right. Like that's still a hell of a time if he's in that range. Or hell, if it's a fast track and he's in the 4.3s, I would take Matthew Golden 6 days a week and twice on Sunday before I even think about touching Arian Smith.
It's crazy how it's changed. The speed of the game has changed. I mean, it's like drafting a guy that throws 98. Like, that's good. Yeah, that's all right. And it's like, no, 98 is still pretty damn fast. Oh, well, it's not 101. Well, yeah, but it's still 98. So that's kind of how I view the 40s nowadays. Xavier Worthy, especially, to me, just kind of put kind of the concept of running that fast just so out of proportion. But there's one other point in that question that I wanted to get to. Alfred Collins running a 4.97. That
would be freaky.
Look, the freakiest big man I've ever seen run was Jalen Carter last year, 2 years ago, when he ran a 4.78 at 340 pounds or whatever it was. Alfred Collins right now said that he played this year at 327, 330 pounds. He said he's expected to come in listing at 330 pounds. If he runs sub 5 seconds in the 40 at 330 pounds as an interior defensive lineman, yeah, lock him up for a top 50 pick. Absolutely. Yeah. He said the athleticism is going to be the big thing that I'm going to show off this week. Sub 5, he's going to do exactly that.
And you said he's not testing, right? He's just going to do drills on the field drill. So he's going to test the pro day.
I should go over that actually. No Vernon Broughton this week in the pro day. He said he strained a hip flexor preparing for the Senior Bowl about 2 weeks prior to the Senior Bowl. He strained a hip flexor, was kind of suggested not to participate in the spring in the Senior Bowl. Will not participate in the combine either, but he will go through the medicals. We'll go through interviews with the teams. He's expected to be 100% for the Texas Pro Day on March 26th. And then Alfred Collins said that he's only doing the skill drills. So that's bags, that's running the circles, whatever they got the defensive linemen doing. But no 40, no bench. I believe no jumping either. Again, all of that will be saved for the Texas Pro Day. So, Jeff, you were there last year. There was, I believe, 105 total scouts, 3 head coaches, a couple GMs. I would expect that number to be ramped up quite a bit with Quinn Ewers throwing. I'm sure a lot of guys will want to get in there early to at least see Arch Manning in person as well. But now you got a couple other, candidates participating as well.
Yeah, that pro day participation, it's gotten a lot better the last couple of years, especially this last year. I remember it might have been the Josh Thompson, Cameron Dicker, Brendan Schooler draft. I don't think there was a single head coach or GM that showed up to a Texas pro day. And that's how quick Sark has gotten this thing turned around.
Yeah.
Gotten from that to now where he's setting school records for combine invitees each of the last few years. You could have double-digit draft picks 2 years in a row. The Texas Pro Day is going to be a place where teams want to be. So, because I don't know, CJ, I don't know if you've heard any of this or Rod, if you have insight on this. It's just something I've noticed, and I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other, but it seems like teams are, and maybe you can save top 30 visits this way, but they're saving some of their interview time to interview guys during the pro day process because you can pull guys in and meet. So that the interviews are just as valuable to the teams during the pro day as the workouts are.
I totally agree with you on that. It's a way for them to be a little bit maximize their time.
Yeah,
right? I talked to a lot of different prospects. You only get so many, interviews where you can bring them into your facility. You only get so many combine interviews. And I'm with you, Joe. That's a great point where you can get a face to face. And I don't know if there's a limit on how long you can talk to them and everything like that at pro day. I mean, so
is there one at the combine, Rod? I asked that because we were talking to Alfred Collins today, and amongst me and the media scrum is individual reporters for all 32 teams, right? And, they want to know if Alfred Collins met with team XYZ, and I'm sitting there and he's probably up to team 7 by now asking, have you met with so-and-so? And he's standing there at the podium, and I laugh because he sits there and, he gets asked, have you met with, the Miami Dolphins? And he goes, I think so. I don't know, but it just takes me to the point. It's just speed dating. These guys get 10 minutes, 15 minutes with 10, 15 different teams. He listed off probably 8 or 9 teams that he met with, and he forgot probably a few others. But those meetings at the pro day where you're able to sit down and truly elaborate on stuff, that goes much further than the combine here.
There is no representation for these guys. Like they're not drafted players yet, so they're not in the union. So there's no CBA that is actually organized that puts parameters on what can be done. They're no longer college athletes, so there's no NCAA influence on what you can do and how much time you can spend in practice. So they're actually in purgatory right now. So that's a great point. I do believe the combine does have some type of limit on it, but that's part of the problem with the combine is there is no jurisdiction. It's in no man's land. They're not part of the NFL Players Union yet, and they're no longer college athletes. So you can, it's pretty kind of up to your agent. Can your agent finagle? That's why fewer and fewer guys, they want to do some stuff at the combine and then some stuff at pro day, because they have a little bit more control with that. But that's a great point, CJ. That in terms of the speed dating element to it.
Yeah, even at the pro day, there will be some guys that most of the guys try to do media after they're done. But I know there's been a couple of guys. Bijan was one where he had to meet with 6-7 teams that wanted to meet with him that night. Some guys, they'll have teams go take them out to dinner the night before or whatever. So again, the pro day, it's important for workouts. Don't get me wrong, but I just think the interviews are becoming so much of a bigger part of pro day than I probably realized. I've just noticed the uptick in those the last few years.
But it's funny, the science there too. The last thing I'll add is some teams have the mindset where they just don't want to interview who they might be taking to tip off other teams, and that gets out, right? The reporters who cover these teams, their whole, one of their big objectives coming into this week is, all right, we got to get the final list of who formally and informally met with team XYZ. If I cover the Cowboys, I got to know every single team, every single person that met with the Cowboys, basically. Well, for instance, the Cowboys could purposely not go talk to Matthew Golden because they're eyeing him at 12, and they don't want the Giants to trade up to 11 to get him, right? And I'm making this hypothetically up, but I was talking to somebody today who was like, yeah, I've covered, this team for about 10 years now. I've gotten to know pretty well that nothing matters about what they do at this draft because whether they talk to somebody or not, it makes no difference about where they are on the board whatsoever. So I always find that interesting when a player comes out after being drafted by a team. They're like, yeah, I wouldn't talk to them at all. It was more than not by design by the team.
It's a great point there, CJ. Yeah, you're right about that. All right, let's before we move on, let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge, another one of our fantastic sponsors. Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now. That's right, 600 vehicles right now in stock, including an amazing selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. And right now, they have a great deal happening with over 50 Ram 2500s, all of them marked down with huge savings right now over at South Point Dodge. So head on over there. You can go see their really exclusive inventory off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go visit them online at southpointdodge.com. Make it easier yourself and check out all of their inventory there as well. That's southpointdodge.com, Austin's automotive everything and your one-stop shop for everything that your truck needs. That's southpointdodge.com, and we appreciate them for being part of the Texas football family and sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. All right, Texas boy, TX boy Teddy says, CJ, were you surprised to hear Colin say that Barron was the fastest Longhorn there? This is because also Real Analytics, they did a predictive model, I guess, for the cornerbacks coming out as well, and they have Jaydan Barron running between a 4.41 and a 4.43 as a corner, which I think is kind of getting back to, it's like, that's plenty fast. It's not world-class, head-turning speed, but it's plenty fast to play corner in the NFL at a high level. And if Jaydan Barron runs that, I think he'll just solidify himself as being a guy that's projected to be a first-round cornerback.
Yeah, you see him there. Thank you, Matthew, for pulling that up. I think I would be a little surprised if he ran or if he was the fastest Longhorn this weekend.
Yeah, I would.
That was an interesting question because, Collins was also asked who was the strongest Longhorn. He said Kelvin Banks immediately, and then he kind of backtracked and said, no, Jermaine Lollet. So that surprised me as well. But, yeah, he doubled down. He said Jaydan Barron's the fastest player on the team. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, maybe do I need to recalibrate some of these these projections once again? Am I that off? But, no, that if Jaydan Barron comes out and runs 4.4 flat or a 4.3, anything in a 4.3, send him in the top 15, send him to, I think the draft is in Green Bay. He's going to be in the green room for it 100% if that's the case. I don't want to doubt Jayden because he's proved me wrong. He's proved millions wrong just about every time that he sets foot on a football field. I don't know if I ever saw a 4.4 speed from him or sub 4.4 speed. And I say that because, look, he dealt with a little bit of a toe injury in 2024 or 2023. He didn't necessarily ever get to that 100% mobility with the toe, with the knee. I think it was lingering him as well. I believe there's summer of 2023, he got into a little bit of a car accident that hindered his movement early in that year. And then we talked about it against Oklahoma State. They picked on him in the slot. Washington, they kind of went after him in the slot. That speed that we talk about being in this conversation, I don't think was shown up there. What was so special about him this year is the change of direction, the ability. They call it, what is it? The T.
Yeah, the T step. Yeah,
the T step. Just plant your foot and drive back down the field. That's what makes him so special, and that's what allows him to play quicker than maybe a 40-yard dash would do for him. Look, I would love to be wrong here. I don't see 4.3s from Jayden.
Yeah, I don't see 4.3 either, Jeff. What about? But I could be wrong about that. I do agree with CJ about the football speed, though. He plays at a much faster speed than he'll probably put on tape.
I still think I think there are probably teams, Rod, in the 20s that are probably hoping he runs a slower time, so he falls to them.
That's honestly true. Yeah,
because they're again. I've mentioned it before. I'll say it again. The Packers, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Lions of late. They're organizations that, man, they just draft ball players. They're just looking for damn good football players. And, that's why Jayden's going in the first round somewhere, because there will be somebody that says, you know what, this guy's just too good a player for us to pass up. I mean, you look at that list. There's 3 corners on this board. And Jacob Parrish from K-State is a borderline kind of one of those guys. But between Jaydan Barron, Travis Hunter, and Will Johnson, I don't care what any of those guys run. I've seen enough with my own eyes to know that those three guys can play at the next level.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. And I think Jade is too good of a player. I don't know if he'll fall outside the top 20. He could. Because I'm with you. I think Travis Hunter goes really early. Because, I mean, he can play wide receiver. They're debating right now whether he's a wide receiver or a cornerback. I don't know. Do you guys have a preference? I think he wants to play wide receiver because that's where the money is. I do feel like he may be a better corner than wide receiver, but he makes his body control and catch radius are freaky at wide receiver. CJ, you're there. What are the folks saying there? Is he a wide receiver or a corner?
I was walking around, I believe it's Good Morning Football or one of the big morning football shows on NFL Network, and they were debating it too. They said that, look, they've asked both the head coaches and at Tennessee, the GM at Cleveland, they have them going opposite ways. One has them at wide receiver, the other has them as a cornerback. And I'm like, if the teams are that split that early, I mean, you might as well just use them both ways. I would use him. I think he has a higher ceiling as a corner comparative to the other corners in the draft. Not saying that it's a weak or great cornerback class, but just his freakish athleticism with the ball skills at corner, that's a rare find there.
Yep.
Who's to say you can't also just say, hey, we got a package for you. Go in, give me 10, 15 snaps on wide receiver. You don't have to do a whole lot. Just go run your route, and we'll figure it out from there. You're not going to be asked to go chip on a Micah Parsons or Max Crosby. Just go run your route, and we'll figure it out. But, yeah, I think cornerback is absolutely his highest possible ceiling at the next level.
Yeah, you see this guy right here, Charles Woodson?
Huh.
That I think Travis Hunter has a Charles Woodson-like career. I think he's a Hall of Fame player as a defensive back, and I think he can have the Charles Woodson career arc where half of his career he's an all-pro corner, and then the second half of his career he's an all-pro safety.
Return man in there in his youth early on, just to give him the football because he's good.
Yeah, and especially while he's young, you can have him be more of a two-way player. I know Charles Woodson, they didn't use, Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey, those guys, not to the extent that Travis Hunter was. Both those guys were two-way players in college, but that made the transition to being Hall of Fame defensive backs. I just think Travis Hunter he's a rare talent at corner. And to me, that's where I'd put him because, we talk about corner still a premium position. If you can get a guy that can lock down, a third or a quarter or a half the field, then as a defensive coordinator, it completely changes the game. So I'd put him at corner.
I think it's just harder to find really good corners, and he is a really good corner. He's a really good receiver. I think it's easier to find really good receivers. I said all the time, wide receiver is the deepest position in football. So I can find a good playmaking receiver. To find a good playmaking cornerback, like CJ said, with ball skills like he's got, those guys don't grow on trees, man. Those guys are hard to come by. So I would put him at cornerback. Okay, to finish up our 40 conversation, they also, the same group, Real Analytics, they put out the safety projected 40 times for safeties. They put Andrew McCouber on here, guys, and they got Andrew McCouber running between a 4.49 and a 4.51. People don't really, scouts don't really have the same standard for speed that they do at DB at corner and for safety. But I think Andrew McCouber might be a little bit faster than that. Am I wrong about that? Because he's a smaller safety.
That's kind of the range I figured. I don't know about you, CJ. That's kind of the range I figured he'd be in. I was thinking like a 4.52, somewhere around there for McCouber.
Okay.
I think if you're Andrew McCouber running right there with Malachi Starks, then you're in good shape. Obviously, you're not expected to go in the same round or region of the draft as Starks, but look, the tape will be there. The range will be there. We've talked about the interception against he had one in
the Georgia one
playoff, but the one at Georgia at home is he made another play just like that in the playoff where I was just sitting there like, this guy's unbelievable. Another guy where the football instincts supersede the time on the board. So 4.4 anything would be great for Andrew McCouber.
He's got great range. His range is amazing. Like he showed that off this year. I mean, that dude, I would literally see him at the snap on, one hash, and he'd be making a play on the opposite sideline sometimes. I mean, that dude, he did that in I want to say it's the A&M game. He had one of those plays like that where he ended up making a play on the other side of the field. He just has great range, and like you said, comes back to IQ. So I think if he runs it right around there, he will. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if he runs a little bit faster just because he's so much smaller.
Keaton Crawford up there as well.
Yeah. Good point. But Keith Crawford can run. He can run.
Yeah.
Right, he's supposed to be running real fast.
Yeah, someone's gonna draft Keaton Crawford and get them a guy that's probably he could probably just make a roster as a gunner. / project defensive back because I'm telling you, that was Josh Thompson's ticket to the NFL. Like if you go back and watch Michael Dixon's 2017, Michael Dixon was great. Don't get me wrong, but go back and watch how many plays Josh Thompson made tracking the ball. He was just Rod. You did that at the highest level. I mean, a good gunners and jammers, guys that can do those jobs at an elite level, they can win you games, man. You may not.
I will pay top dollar. If I was ever a GM, I would pay top dollar for a good gunner because I swear to God, there's nothing that makes me more mad in the game of football than a stupid gunner. There's nothing. It doesn't matter. You could list anything in the world of the game of football. A dumb gunner makes me so irrationally angry. I'd pay top dollar for him. Brendan Schooler, look, all-pro guy.
Yeah.
Adrian Phillips, another one who's been in the league for about a decade now. Multiple all-pros, all in special teams. There's a market there.
No, every Longhorn DB that goes to the league, I want to say at least 70% of them end up playing gunner at one point. Because Michael Griffin told me, he's like, "Oh yeah, I played gunner a little bit when I first got to the Titans. There was a first-round pick out there of special teams." All right.
I love that that's your pet peeve, CJ. Like gunners that don't do their jobs well.
No, I'm dead serious. Like it's my most. I have a group chat with a couple buddies from high school where the whole thing is just like good play, gunner. Like that's every text that we send, and it's just like you could down a guy inside the 5, or the ball gets punted through the end zone by your gunner, or you miss a tackle and you allow a 40-yard return. It's like, just
go. Yeah. Hey man, gunner means a lot. Like I said, going back to kind of that Michael Griffin conversation, him and Ryan Palmer, the great story he tells, they had a fight in the DB room that had to be broken up by Coach Aquino because they were arguing over who was the best gunner on the team. There you go. So it means a lot, man. It means a lot to the DBs, man. We care about being a good gunner. It matters. All right, let's move on. Hey, you know what? Before we move on, we're talking 40s here, so we might as well transition here and then get back to the questions. Jaden Blue, guys, I've seen multiple tweets out there by draft analysts. One of them by Jordan Reed. He had a segment on SportsCenter where he was asked about 3 prospects that scouts have continued to bring up that he says at the combine they'll have a close eye on. And one of the guys he brought up was Jaden Blue. He brought up Jaden Blue, just talked about his elite speed. I saw Field Yates with a tweet that said Jaden Blue is going to put on a show this week at the combine. He is a sick, in all caps, sick athlete, he said. And, I keep thinking about it. I remember Real Analytics, we were just referencing them. They had him clocked at 22.3 miles per hour in 2023, the fastest running back in college football. And Xavier Worthy was clocked at 22.7 and ran a 4.21. I don't know what Jaden Blue is going to run at the combine, but man, if you put it out there, CJ, if he even taps into the 4.2, even if he goes low 4.3, 4.31, something like that, most people would go like, that's basically a 4.2 on a really good day. Thank you for that, Matthew. Guys, Jaden Blue getting a lot of hype here. And by the way, in one of the deepest running back drafts in history, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, guys. Saying that the reason this is not a sexy draft is because, CJ, you brought it up. There's not a lot of great quarterback talent in the draft at the highest, at the elite level, at the top level. Not a lot of elite wide receiver talent in this draft as well. But there are a lot of kind of non-premium positions that are deep, like running back and tight end, interior D-line, which I think actually is a premium position. But D-line is really deep in this draft. But anyway, I digress. Getting back to it. What are you guys' thoughts, man? You first, CJ. You're there. Have you heard any Jaden Blue buzz? Because these guys are hearing that, hey, there are some teams that may think that Jaden Blue may be perfect for their offense. Like what we want to do, that guy might be the perfect weapon.
Yeah, I got a conversation actually lined up tomorrow for this exact reason. I'm really excited for it. So we'll have some details on it tomorrow morning. But look, combine cuties kind of turn into the draft darlings, right? You hear about that pretty often. What makes you a combine cutie? Well, it's the hype coming in that you're going to have one elite trait. You're either going to bench the most, you're either going to run the fastest 40, you're either going to jump the highest or the furthest. Yeah. It makes you a draft cutie. And then you go into the pro days, you go into those last few days or weeks of draft buildup and you become a draft darling because everybody and their mother is picking you as the hot spot, the hot pick to be a steal, right? It's like, Drake right now in college basketball is 25-3. They're a cutie when it comes to March Madness, but whenever the brackets come out and you see an 11 or a 12 by Drake's name, you're going to say, yeah, that's my Cinderella. They're become the darling of the ball. That's going to be the opportunity for Jaden Blue because you know that his elite trait is going to be the speed. His elite trait is one that's in the world of the combine. It's the prettiest, running as fast as you can with the ball in your hands. That's something I think he's going to shine at. So, yeah, I'm all for it. I think, again, what was it, the mock draft last week, Rod? It had him in the second round. I'm not ready to go that far.
Yeah.
Not ready to go that far. But I do think a blazing time and a good showing in the gauntlet, as I mentioned earlier in the week, I think could really pole vault him up the draft boards quite a bit because everybody wants that Gadget, Jahmyr Gibbs level guy to go with their big back.
I feel the same way about Jaden Blue that I feel about Cam Williams. Are people going to go to the combine and go looking at Cam Williams thinking, okay, we maybe drafted Amarius Mims? And to CJ's point, are there teams going into the combine ignoring, the issues we talk about with Jaden Blue, the ball security, was never the guy at Texas, but are teams going to go in the draft thinking, hey, if the speed checks out and like CJ said, that gauntlet and the drills check out, is there somebody thinking, hey, we may get a steal, we may draft Alvin Kamara or Jahmyr Gibbs in the third or fourth round?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are probably going to be teams that think that. So I think those two guys and Isaiah Bond, I think their stock has a chance. It could yo-yo one way or the other based on how they run. Like Isaiah Bond, I know we're talking about Jaden Blue, but like Isaiah Bond, for some of the reasons we were talking about with Jaylan Barron not being healthy in 23, he came back for 24. He's a first rounder. I know he wasn't planning on coming back, but I thought Isaiah Bond should have come back for 2025. He would have been wide receiver 1. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but his more productive receiving games were with Arch at quarterback. So just throwing that out there. Could have been different for Isaiah Bond, but yeah, I think teams are going to look at those guys ride the second round, third round, fourth round type guys. I think teams look at that. Hey, could we get a steal on a guy that could end up being a first round type guy for us 2-3 years down the road? Can we draft him in the third round?
Yeah, because they're saying that this draft, they have, they don't have a lot of first round grades in this draft. There is not a lot of top talent at the top of the draft at elite premium positions, or elite talent at premium positions, I should say. So basically from like picks 15 through picks like 40, they're saying they could end up being the same guy. Picks 15 and 40 end up being the same dude. You have no idea. So this is going to be one of the wildest drafts because they don't really know. Usually premium positions and elite players can kind of tell you exactly where guys are going to be slotted. This is going to be one of the wildest drafts and most unpredictable drafts they've had in a really, really long time. Should be fun.
Really quick, am I crazy for liking Travis Hunter as much as I do? I think he's phenomenal.
No reason to overthink it. He's a great football player, and you got a margin for error. If he doesn't work at a wide receiver, I'll put him at corner. He don't work at corner, I'll put him at safety. Like I got like 3 different positions I can put him at, and he'll still be of benefit to my team. So I'm with you. I think it's a no-brainer.
I'm kind of there with Kelvin Banks too. Like I've seen enough to feel like Kelvin Banks' game translates to what the NFL is now. Like I said, maybe he's a guard. We'll start him at tackle. If it doesn't work out, kick him inside.
Exactly.
If he's good inside, then hey, maybe we can put him at tackle in a pinch. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Larry Allen, but let's not forget, like that 94 Cowboys team, Larry Allen's rookie year, Eric Williams had the car accident and was out for the year. They went to an NFC Championship game with Larry Allen as a rookie guard, drafted as a guard, playing right tackle.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
At a time where you're going against Reggie White and Bruce Smith and Derek Thomas and some of the best pass rushers this game's ever produced. So yeah, I mean, I think Kelvin Banks, I think his game translates really well to what the NFL is now.
Yeah, Landon Jackson said that he was the toughest offensive lineman that he faced in his college career. Baron Sorrell was asked that same question. He said, well, I got to go against him every single day in practice. It was Kelvin Banks. So that's one of those iron sharpens irons that you get to put on a plaque, one of those graphic sheets and throw out to all the recruits if you're the University of Texas saying, yeah, look, You get to go against one of the best tackles, one of the best edge rushers every day in practice. We got it all here in Austin.
Yeah,
Rod,
for him. I'll send them in.
You've talked about it, Rod. How much better of a corner did you become going against Roy Williams and Sloan Thomas and B.J. Johnson every day?
I wouldn't have made it to the league without that every day of practice. No way. I mean, that's just it. It gave me the confidence that I could cover anybody in the country because I knew they were the best. I knew Roy was a first round wide receiver and turned out being right about that. But to your point about Kelvin Banks, the margin for error, yeah, because you move him the right tackle if he doesn't work out at left tackle, and then you move him inside the guard if he doesn't work out at right tackle. Got this little stat that I found looking at the draft. If you go look at the draft, this is from 2015 to 2023. That's the sample size. 35% of tackles who go to the NFL or drafted from college to the NFL, they kick inside. So that's just a usual. That happens a lot. And it says here basically 87% of college guards, they stay at guard. So I think it's one of those things where a lot of the tackles, like a third of the tackles they draft, ended up kicking inside anyway. Because, and by the way, 45% of all linemen that are drafted in the league in that time span, they all played left tackle. So you basically kick from left to right. Like you go, if he's great, we'll start him out at left tackle. If not, we'll just work his way down to right tackle, and then we'll work him to guard. So,
Jeff, help me out here. The last Texas tackle to, I guess, play snaps in the NFL as a tackle, was it Calvin Anderson? Because Cosme moved inside, Connor Williams moved inside all the way in.
Damn.
Justin Blaylock kicked inside.
Damn, I didn't. That's good. I didn't think about that, bro.
Like it's been quite a while since there's been a bona fide left tackle from Texas, I think Calvin Anderson had a couple.
Yeah, he did.
Maybe with the Broncos. So.
Broncos. Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, if you're talking about draftees, I mean, friend of the channel, Tony Hills. Tony Hills played tackle at Texas, played tackle in the league.
Yeah. Good point, CJ. I never thought about that, but you're right. So a lot of Longhorn tackles have dealt with that. It's just because you got to have a certain baseline of athleticism just to play tackle at the college or the pro level. And NFL, you got to take that up even higher notch. I think Kelvin Banks can play left tackle in the league. I'll just say that. I think.
And if they do move Kelvin in, you got Cam Williams out there, who I think is going to be a great right tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, he's definitely got all the raw material. He's the guy you invest in, and you almost the team that invested in him, they are waiting for the second contract too, because they want to get him on the cheap. They want to project him to be a left tackle potentially, but you're right, he could end up being a right tackle as well.
But again, real quick, that Rod, the number I like the numbers you just gave out. That's why offensive tackles get paid premium position money compared to guards.
Yeah,
two guys. I mentioned one already, and we just saw one. Robert Gallery was number 3 overall pick by the Raiders as a tackle. Wasn't great at tackle, but kicked inside the guard and played I think double-digit years in the league. Mekhi Becton was a bust as a tackle. The Eagles signed him, kick him inside the guard, and he's a starter on a Super Bowl team. So guys, it just doesn't work out at tackle, but it works at guard.
Yep,
Cosby's one of them.
He is one of them.
Cosby's the highest paid guards in the league now.
Yeah.
Great point. Kenneth Cassidy here with a question about Quinn. With everything we know now, where will Quinn be drafted? I saw, guys know I'm a mock slut, and I saw there's a website called Grinding the Mocks, and they look at hundreds of different mock drafts from the media, from fans, and from draft analysts alike. And they had a graphic about the mock drafts for Quinn Ewers. And you can go look at it basically around October. Around October, that's when Quinn's draft stock from the mocks kind of peaked. And he was still considered a first-round mocked quarterback at that point. And then based on their analysis of, like I said, they said 722 mocks, I believe, from fan, media, and analysts alike. Now they have him trending toward a round 3 pick, and grinding the mocks in February of 25. So I think his workouts will mean a lot. His injury history is definitely going to hurt his draft stock. But as CJ mentioned, this is not an elite deep quarterback class coming out. So he's got a chance to really make up some ground here during, the draft season or combine season, if you will. He's got a chance to make up a lot of ground. Can he be quarterback 3? That's as high as he can go, right, guys? He's not going to get past QB 3 coming out.
Yeah, I agree. Again, this is the time to buy low on Quinn right before he goes out and throws in Indianapolis. Because look, I don't think you're going to see Shador Sanders throw, and I don't think you're going to see Cam Ward throw. Who now becomes the top arm in Indianapolis? Who's going to be the guy that draft scouts and the media will be buzzing about for their dazzling arm? To me, it's Quinn Ewers.
I think it's going to be Quinn. Yeah. Although I think some team's going to do it, guys. There's going to be a team that falls in love with Jalen Milroe.
Fools.
It's the same reason why I lost my mind last year. I'm watching NFL preseason just because I'm a sicko and I watch NFL preseason games. But teams are losing their minds over, oh my God, fans are losing their mind. Oh my gosh, did you see Joe Milton with the Patriots? You see how far he can throw the ball? I'm like, yeah, Joe Milton can throw it probably 80 yards in the air. When has that ever won anybody a game quarterback in the National Football League?
Seriously.
Never. So, yeah, that ain't what playing quarterback's all about. But somebody's going to – I think Jalen Milroe could be QB3 because I think, again, somebody could just fall in love with him. Like, damn, whatever you saw at the Senior Bowl with CJ, you were at the Senior Bowl, and I know you didn't leave impressed with Jalen Milroe, and you weren't alone in that thinking. Somebody's going to say, forget all that, man. We're going to draft Jalen Milroe, and he's going to be – I don't know who you comp him to, but he's going to be just a dynamic playmaking quarterback in the league.
Jalen Hurts is making Jalen Milroe some money here because people keep making that comparison, and it's not an accurate one, by the way, in my opinion either. I think Jalen Hurts was a much more refined passer, in my opinion, than Jalen Milroe, and he got more accurate in the league. But they are making that comparison, so I think it's kind of helping them out a little bit. All right, let's thank our last sponsor of the evening before we get ready to wrap it up. We got a couple of questions we'll take before we wrap things up, but let's thank our friends over at Bluebird Organizing. That's right, folks. If you and your family are feeling overwhelmed and stressed in your space, well, holding on to too much stuff without enough room for it, navigating big transitions in your life like moving, getting a new job, a divorce, or having kids, that can all be very stressful. If you're ready to bring more order and calm to the space you spend every day, Bluebird Organizing, ladies and gentlemen, Austin's premier professional organizers, help you wherever you are in life. You'll end overwhelm and get organized and make your space work for you. All right. If you thought of having someone come look at your personal space and it feels a bit overwhelming, Bluebird Organizing understands that. So it's no small ask to let a stranger come into your home, to come into your life. But with Bluebird Organizing, there's no judgment at all, folks. Only efficient plans that can resolve conflicts at home and change your life for the better. So give them a call today, 737-346-7779. That's 737-346-7779, or visit bluebirdorganizing.net. That's bluebirdorganizing.net to book your free in-person consultation today. So reach out to our friends at Bluebird Organizing and get organized and bring some calm to your life. And thank you to Bluebird Organizing for being a sponsor of our Wednesday night live stream and now being a member of the Owen Texas football family. All right, a couple of questions before we end things tonight. How about this one from OK Cool Hook Them. He says, John Turntime was recently measured at 6'3", 268. Not exactly prototypical tackle size. Thoughts and concerns? I like John Turntime's film. Is he that light?
I don't think so. I think he's closer to 290 right now. He's also, I believe, a basketball and wrestler. So, so he might be cutting right now for that season. Look, I have no concerns about John Turntine. I think I stand in the camp with Jerry Hamilton in the sense that John Turntine might be one of the more complete prospects that's come out of the state of Texas in quite a while, like kind of on that Kelvin Banks path where he's just going to be a bona fide guy. I'm all over John Turntine. I think he's a big-time player, and right now I have no concerns about height, weight, size, whatever.
All right. Thank you for the question. Okay. Cool, hook them. Todd Lacey says, any big plans for 75,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers? You guys should plan a celebration for a desired target amount. It is a conversation, a topic being discussed on our group chat. I will say that. I don't know what's going to come of it. There have been some wild ideas thrown around about how we should celebrate getting to 75,000, but whatever it is, we want to celebrate with you guys because we couldn't have done it without you guys, and really appreciate y'all helping us build this on Texas football community. feels like a family, and it's because of you guys. And so we want to thank you for that. Also, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for doing a great job as always. He's the real MVP. Thank you, CJ, for the time. And folks, make sure you keep it locked in on CJ's Twitter at CJ_Vogel_OTF. He's at the NFL Combine right now. He's going to be covering the 14 Longhorns that are there. Got great tidbits and nuggets for you. Jeff, thank you as well, brother. Can't thank you enough, man. Great to have you part of the On Texas Football family. What's up?
I'll say this. Matthew mentioned it in the chat just now. When we get to 100K, I'm trying to convince Jerry to go all in on the Shane Beamer, Duke's Mayo, Gatorade bucket shower. When we get to 100K.
Does Jerry hate mayo like I do or love it? It's like I'm not the jokes. I'm confused. Does he hate it or love it?
He loves it.
Oh, there you go. Okay, he loves mayo. I hate mayo. I hate all white condiments. That is not a racist thing, by the way. But yeah, I just don't like white condiments of any kind. So that's just my thing. Splin Daddy here with a super chat. Sorry, Splin Daddy, we almost missed it. Says Quinn Ewers is greater than Shadur Sanders. Oh, thoughts before we leave. You take Shadur or Quinn? I think Shadur right now is winning that argument, but I will say we'll see what Quinn, where his ceiling is in the NFL. But right now, I think Shadur has probably surpassed him in like draft capital and draft status. Now, we talking about what they've accomplished in college. That could be different, but in the draft conversation, Shadur is the man. Shadur is going to be probably the top quarterback taken.
He's my favorite.
Yeah.
I've seen Shadur get through a whole season healthy. So he's got that on.
Getting hit much more.
Damn. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a valid point. All right. Thank you, Splendid Daddy. We appreciate that super chat. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. Thank you to South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com. And also thank you to Bluebird Organizing, bluebirdorganizing.net. We appreciate get the Mayo sponsorship. We're working on it. We're trying to get as many sponsors as we can. Thanks to you guys and your support. All right. Thanks to Matthew. Thanks to Jeff Howe. Thanks to CJ. And for the On Texas Football family. Thank you guys for watching as well. Until next time, hook 'em horns.